Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiv Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in the best of songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Bhakti Glenn. Or maybe Alex. You don't know. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 12th day of October 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order, beginning a new chapter, 27. Attack by Chandabega on the city of King Puranjan. And the character of Kala Kanya. Part of the title. Text number 1. Narahuvacha Itam Puranjanam Sadhyag Vishamani Vibramai Puranjani Maharaja Reme Ramayati Patim Narahuvacha Itam Puranjanam Sadhyag Vashamani Vibhramahi Puranjani Maharaja Reme Ramayati Patim Narahuvacha Itam Puranjanam Sadhyag Vashamani Vibhramahi Puranjani Maharaja Reme Ramayati Patim Narahuvacha Itam Puranjanam Sadhyag Vashamani Vibhramahi Puranjani Maharaja Reme Ramayati Patim Narahuvacha Itam Puranjanam Sadhyag Vashamani Vibhramai Puranjani Maharaja Reme Ramayati Patim Narada Uvacha Itam Puranjanam Sadhyag Vashamani Vibhramai Puranjani Maharaja Reme Ramayati Itam Puranjanam Sadhyag Vashamani Vibhramai Raja Reme Ramayati Patim Narahuvacha Itam Puranjanam Sadhyag Vashamani Vibhramai Puranjani Maharaja Reme Ramayati Patim Narahuvacha Itam Puranjanam Sadhyag Vashamani Vibhramai Puranjani Maharaja Reme Ramayati Patim Narada Uvacha Narada said Itam thus Puranjanam King Puranjan Sadhyak completely Vashamaniya bringing under her control Vibhramahi by her charms Puranjani the wife of King Puranjan Maharaja O King Reme enjoyed Ramayati giving all satisfaction Patim to her husband. Translation. The great sage Narada continued, My dear king, after bewildering her husband in different ways and bringing him under her control, the wife of King Puranjan gave him all satisfaction and enjoyed sex life with him. Purport. After hunting in the forest, King Puranjan returned home, and after refreshing himself by taking a bath and eating nice food, he searched for his wife. When he saw her lying down on the ground without a bed, as if neglected, and devoid of any proper dress, he became very much aggrieved. He then became attracted to her and began to enjoy her company. A living entity is similarly engaged in the material world in sinful activities. These sinful activities may be compared to King Puranjan's hunting in the forest. A sinful life can be counteracted by various processes of religion such as yajna, vrata, and dana. That is, the performance of sacrifices, the taking of a vow for some religious ritual, and the giving of charity. In this way, one may become free from the reactions of sinful life and at the same time awaken his original Krishna consciousness. By coming home, taking his bath, eating nice foodstuffs, getting refreshed, and searching out his wife, King Puranjan came to his good consciousness in his family life. In other words, a systematic family life, as enjoined in the Vedas, is better than an irresponsible, sinful life. If a husband and wife combine together in Krishna consciousness and live together peacefully, that is very nice. However, if a husband becomes too much attracted by his wife and forgets his duty in life, the implications of materialistic life will again resume. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore recommended Anasaktasya Vishayan, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.255. Without being attached by sex, the husband and wife may live together for the advancement of spiritual life. The husband should engage in devotional service, and the wife should be faithful and religious according to the Vedic injunctions. Such a combination is very good. However, if the husband becomes too much attracted to the wife due to sex, the position becomes very dangerous. Women in general are very much sexually inclined. Indeed, it is said that a woman's sex desire is 9 times stronger than a man's. It is therefore a man's duty to keep a woman under his control by satisfying her, giving her ornaments, nice food and clothes, and engaging her in religious activities. Of course, a woman should have a few children, and in this way not be disturbing to the man. Unfortunately, if the man becomes attracted by the woman simply for sex enjoyment, then family life becomes abominable. The great politician Chanakya Pandit has said, Bharya Rupavati Shatru. A beautiful wife is an enemy. Of course, every woman in the eyes of her husband is very beautiful. Others may see her as not very beautiful, but the husband, being very much attracted to her, sees her always as very beautiful. If the husband sees the wife as very beautiful, it is to be assumed that he is too much attracted to her. This attraction is the attraction of sex. The whole world is captivated by the 2 modes of material nature, Rajoguna and Tamoguna, passion and ignorance. Generally, women are very much passionate and are less intelligent. Therefore, somehow or other, a man should not be under the control of their passion and ignorance. By performing bhakti yoga, or devotional service, a man can be raised to the platform of goodness. If a husband situated in the mode of goodness can control his wife, who is in passion and ignorance, the woman is benefited. Forgetting her natural inclination for passion and ignorance, the woman becomes obedient and faithful to her husband, who is situated in goodness. Such a life becomes very welcome. The intelligence of the man and woman may then work very nicely together, and they can make a progressive march towards spiritual realization. Otherwise, the husband, coming under the control of the wife, sacrifices his quality of goodness and becomes subservient to the qualities of passion and ignorance. In this way, the whole situation becomes polluted. The conclusion is that a household life is better than a sinful life devoid of responsibility. But if in the household life the husband becomes subordinate to the wife, involvement in materialistic life again becomes prominent. In this way, a man's material bondage becomes enhanced. Because of this, according to the Vedic system, after a certain age, a man is recommended to abandon his family life for the stages of vanaprastha and sannyas. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So one thing I found very remarkable about this pastime, and especially this verse, is how it was Puranjan who was doing all the talking. His wife was just lying there, looking bedraggled and neglected. And just by that mood, that situation, he becomes say, "Oh, I'm your servant." You remember his whole thing, "I'm your servant, and you shouldn't punish me in this way." And there's, he's describing himself as subordinate, completely subordinate. And so, just by that one act of showing her being bereft because he went off to the forest alone without telling her, and so she, as it says here, she completely brought him under control, and then he wanted to apologize, wanted to atone, and he brought her up on his lap, and then they got back into their sensual ways here, and completely bringing him under control. The wife of Puranjan gave him all satisfaction, enjoyed sex life with him. So, Prabhupada, as always, he gives a nice Krishna-conscious turn to everything in his purport. And of course it's Bhagavatam, so it's ultimately Krishna-conscious. But this verse alone needs some explanation to sort of bring it to the transcendental plane and put it in context. Let's put it that way. So, what are we seeing here? What is Prabhupada explaining? He's giving a contrast. But welcome, by the way. Nice to see you again. He's giving a contrast between a grossly materialistic life, a family life, and a Krishna conscious life. How one, if one is aware of the restrictions, and if one is practicing devotional service, then family life can be an enhancement. It can help one to become regulated in his devotional life without being mentally disturbed, and both the man and the woman can advance toward perfection, Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada mentions here, a sinful life could be counteracted by various parts of religion such as yajna, vrata, and dana. This reminds me of the Bhagavad Gita, the 18th chapter, where Krishna is explaining, don't ever give up these three. That's, instead of vrata, he has tyaga, I think, or tapasya. And so the sacrifice and vows of austerity and devotion and charity are very important, really in any situation of life. But especially they're essential in family life because you tend to accumulate wealth, you tend to try to be comfortable, and you can tend to hoard your wealth, instead of dana. So these are never to be given up, as Krishna, yajna, dana, and tapa. And you can see that each one of them involves a counteraction to one's natural tendency to be self-centered. Yajna, a sacrifice. Now, of course, in this age, the main sacrifice is, the best sacrifice is, of course, Sankirtan Yajna. And it's practical. It's practical. What do you need, really? The most important prerequisite is your faith. Lord Nityananda opened up the marketplace of the holy name, and the only price he was asking was your faith. If you have faith in the holy name, then come on, join in. Okay, Hare Krishna, and you're performing sacrifice. You didn't go a long distance. You didn't spend a lot of money. You didn't exert, Whereas the standard Vedic sacrifices, trying to go to heaven or whatever, huge elaborate affairs. You have to perform on just the right time, and you have to hire these Brahmins who precisely chant the mantras. I've never experienced it directly, but I've read that there's also a whole bunch of referees who are watching the Brahmins who are chanting in case they make a mistake, because that can cause havoc. When it's a materialistic goal you have in mind, and everything has to be just right. I always give the example of Tvashta. Remember Tvashta? Tvashta was the father of Vishwarup, who was a qualified Brahmin. His father was a qualified Brahmin. And when Indra offended Brihaspati, and Brihaspati left in the heavenly planets, suddenly Indra and all the other demigods were panic-stricken because they get their strength from service to the Guru, and how the Guru was offended. And they tried to find him, and he couldn't find him, So they became weakened, and the demons took over the heavenly planets. So there's a whole thing in the 6th canto. And Chitraketu was involved, and Vitras, taking birth as Vitrasra. But that happened later. What happened was that they realized we need another guru. So they found Tvashta, who said, okay, my son, Vishwarup, he can be your guru, And so he happened to have 3 heads, We shouldn't be discriminating because he had 3.
So there was somewhere in the line there, I forget the exact. There was some connection to the demons, the asuras. So he had these, he would be performing sacrifices, and sometimes he would give a few oblations to the demons, So Indra, he's hiding behind a pillar and he's watching him, and he sees that he's offering some oblation to the demons. And as Indra is wont to do, we know from Govardhan Leela, he completely loses his temper and he loses his discrimination at the same time. And he cuts off his heads of Vishwarupa. Kind of an overreaction, and all three of them. And they turned into different kinds of pigeons, but we don't have to get into that. So, what's this? So Trashta found out about it. He became infuriated. I encouraged my son, your guru, and so forth. Now you've done this. So he performed a sacrifice to invoke a demon who would then destroy the demigods, including Indra. But he was kind of upset, and he chanted one word wrong. So instead of getting a demon who would kill Indra, he got a devotee dressed as a demon externally who would be killed by Indra and sent back to Godhead. Just from chanting that one word wrong. You see the danger? There's a whole story. I won't get into the details of it. But now by contrast, what do we have with the Sankirtan Jagya? Lord Chaitanya says, Nam Namakari Bahudani Sarva Shaktis. You have so many different names, Govinda, Madhava, Gopijana Vallabha, unlimited names. Even Prabhupada said in, other cultures, you have your own name, you just chant that name, if it's a genuine name of God. And you've invested all your potencies in these names. The name is non-different from Krishna. You can associate directly with Krishna by chanting. And there's no hard and fast rules for time or place. He says no time, but that includes time, place, candidate, and let's be honest, pronunciation. Even if your enunciation isn't so great, Krishna still accepts it. But it's a very important phrase you try to remember. Bhava Grahi Janardana. Bhava Grahi Janardana means that Janardana, Krishna, the name for Krishna, he's looking for the feeling. He's looking for where your heart is at, not so much the externals. And believe it or not, I don't know if you know this is the last line of a verse talking about mispronunciation. Yes. He says I always forget the Sanskrit, but he says the fool. Who's he? Who's what? Yeah, I'm not sure. It's it's in the Shastra. I can get it for you. So he's the speaker of the verse says that the fool, he says when addressing Vishnu, he says Vishnaya. Just as we say in the Mahom Krishna Prestaya Bhutale for Srila Prabhupada. This is an ending of a vocative you're personally saying to you. You see, this is a Sanskrit grammar. So the uneducated person, he doesn't know that so well. So he doesn't know the exceptions. So instead of saying Vishnaya, he should be saying Vishnave. You see? And so the wise man says Vishnave. But both of them get the same result. If their heart is pure. Doesn't matter, Vishnu accepts it because he's looking for the heart. Unlike with these official jagyas for material purposes where everything has to be just right or you can have a contrary effect. So, but still, yajna should never be given up. In fact, yajna should be embraced. That yajna should be embraced in this age. It's the most important. And as far as dana goes, well, certainly householders should give charity. There's no, but even ordinary devotees that are just practicing, they say in the brahmacharya ashram, what charity do we give? Well, whatever you do is in the mood of charity. In that, okay, I'm doing this service, the results are going to you. You see? It's kind of standard karma yoga, which some Prabhupada says is an aspect of bhakti yoga. It's integrated into it. So that mood of charity is giving, and austerities are there. They're built into the process for regular principles, getting up early, or so these are essential for bhakti as well, but they're specific, custom made for devotional service. So, but in household life, if they're lacking, then chances are very high it can degenerate into sense gratification, because the facility is there. And that's why, Prabhupada says that if a husband and wife combine together in Krishna consciousness and live together peacefully, that is very nice. And that is what Prabhupada intended when he himself performed marriages, which itself was a concession to the West, because who else is going to perform them? You know, he got some criticism from his godbrothers then because of doing that, and opening up brahmacharini ashrams, which was unheard of. But that's the situation. You have these sincere ladies approaching who want to become devotees, and so he had to accommodate them. You know, and accommodate guys coming with their girlfriends, they're both somewhat sincere, okay. Then here's the rules and regulations. You still, you know, so okay, so accept. In this way, Srila Prabhupada started really a social revolution along with the movement. It was meant to be like that. So the Prabhupada quotes the first line of this verse, and I'd like to quote the rest of it, because this is really the what he's speaking about here is yukta vairagya. Yukta vairagya. Krishna consciousness is based on this principle of vairagya and vidya. This famous verse by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya about Lord Chaitanya, describing how the same Krishna has come as Lord Chaitanya. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga shikshatameka purushak purana Sri Krishna Chaitanya sharirādhari kripambadirya tamaham prapadde. This is a beautiful verse describing how that same ancient person, Krishna, has now come as under the name and form as Lord Chaitanya to teach the same ancient practice, which is characterized by Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga, his own Bhakti Yoga to himself, devotion to himself, characterized by Vairagya and Vidya. Now this Vairagya and Vidya are essential parts of devotional service, and they actually develop naturally, organically. In that same series, it's such an important series of verses beginning in the second chapter, first canto, first defining what real Dharma is, which is that which awakens your dormant love for Krishna, your dormant bhakti for Krishna, who's transcendental. The word that hokshaja is there. In Sanskrit, every word, every syllable is so important. I heard Prabhupada explain, when we included in that book, Dharma, the Way of Transcendence, his explanation of this word at hokshaja. It's a name for Krishna. It's not a name that evokes the pastimes of Vrindavan, but it's a very important name, and it's often used, if you look at the context in the Bhagavatam, when he's speaking about beginning devotional service, the first stages. So it's composed of three words, Adha, Aksha, and Ja. Now Ja is short for Janma, or generates. And Aksha is eyes, and it stands in for all of the senses, material senses. And Adha means down. So you put them all together, and what it means is that the Supreme Transcendent, Supreme Lord is all the knowledge that can be generated from the eyes and other senses. In other words, ordinary material knowledge is defeated and pushed down by this Transcendent Lord. Meaning you cannot access the Lord by your own material eyes and material senses and material mind. And they need to be transcendentalized by connecting to Krishna, and then you eventually can see. Probably in so many lectures, I listen to a lecture every day, he talks about, they ask, someone, can you show me God? And Prabhupada always says, do you have the eyes to see God? You have the point is you have to be trained. And I give the example sometimes from my own life as a kid. I grew up in New York City, on Long Island. And so we would periodically go in, there's so many nice museums there, And I began to, get attracted, this must be a Rembrandt, and it's very realistic, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about it. So when I was about 16 or something, my parents bought me this series of books about art, fine art. And then there's so much to learn about the context, the different lighting, the styles, there's a lot to learn, just like music. You can listen to music, I like it, don't like it, but there's so much in there, especially Indian music, ragas, So I began to go, when I would go to the museum, I would see through the eyes of those books. I said, oh, now I get it, this is this style, there's that symbol, that's, that religious symbol, whatever, like that. So a similar thing happens in Krishna consciousness. When you begin to purify your vision and other senses, but through hearing and chanting and practicing devotional service, then you see differently. Just like we walk into this temple, and we say there's beautiful pictures here. But it means more to us, who know the pastime, there's Ram Leela and there's Lord Chaitanya and so forth, than someone who just walks into the temple and says, oh, that's nice art, they don't know anything. So that seeing with knowledge, that's what the purification of the vision is. And it goes beyond that even, where Krishna really reveals himself internally and even sometimes externally to the very pure devotees. They have different vision. So back to our verse, this verse about Vairagya. And so Rupa Goswami, he describes it in this verse, Arasaktasya vishayan yataham apayunjata nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. So this is called yukta vairagya, means detachment in yoga, in bhakti yoga. Because there's also a kind of vairagya that's kind of artificial, where you just go alone to the Himalayas, you don't see any temptations, you don't want to be bothered, And in this way, by force of will, you practice yoga and pranayama, And this way you withdraw the senses, pratyahara. And in this, you can attain a certain level of detachment that way. But it's palgu, that's the next verse. Palgu means weak. And we'll get into that in a minute. But first to describe what he recommends as the bhakti form of vairagya. So anasaktasya vishayan. Vishayan are the object of the senses. And asaktasya means without attachment. Without attachment. Now, without attachment, yataham apayunjata, as appropriate, engaging these objects of the senses in the service of the Lord. Nirbandha Krishna sambandhe, linking them up to Krishna. This is called yukta vairagya. And the word nirbandha means persistently doing that, and it also means that you are not bound up. You remain not bound up by your attraction to the Vishayas because you're not employing them in your own sense gratification, you're employing them in Krishna's sense gratification. Now, perfect example of this is money. Prabhupada came to the West, penniless practically, and as soon as he got a little money, he spent it on Krishna. As his spiritual master famously told him, if you ever get money, print books. Prabhupada got a little money, what did he print? He didn't have money to print books, he started printing back the Godhead. Now he had full faith that if he's using that money in Krishna's service, he'll get more money. And after some time, those books were going out and donations were coming in, and he had millions of dollars at his disposal. And all of it, he'd build a temple. You get enough money, build a temple. And then that attracts more people, you see. And the pious give automatically. People come, especially those who are raised in the Indian culture, they know they should give to the deity. They come, handi, give bigger donations. And the money, if it's being used, for propagation for service to the deities and maintenance and preaching, then you're not attracted to it at all. Whereas in ordinary life, if people are every day they're spending I don't know how many billions of dollars they're betting on the lottery in hopes that I'll get hit it rich. It's that increases the immersion in material life. It can become an addiction, this gambling thing. So anasaktata vishayan yataham abhyunjata, and this is important in every stage of devotional life, but it's very important in household life. Is that for the man to engage his wife in devotional service, the devotional service to encourage the man in his service and perform her own service. This is what transcendentalizes everything, keeps everything pure, and it becomes the perfect example. Those 6 couples who Prabhupada sent to England. These are from the first marriages, Mukunda Goswami and Janaki, and Guru Das and Yamuna, and Shyamasundar and Malati. They came to Montreal. Prabhupada was situated there, and for a week or more, he trained them in various things about kirtan. There wasn't that much book. Book distribution wasn't going on. There were a few books, and the devotees were reading them, giving out. But he sent them to England. They didn't have immediately a place to stay, for sure. Maybe they had one or two contacts. Gradually, you read the story. It's a wonderful description of how they sincerely did that. And who was the temple president? I mean, they didn't even have a form of temple, but the Yamuna. Yamuna was the temple president. I was there after she departed. I don't know the year exactly, at least 10 years now. There was a ceremony in L.A. I went up there, And remembrance in Shyamasundar was there, and Malati, I think, came, some of the others. And Shyamasundar told me, I think he told me personally, he says, it was Yamuna who was getting us up in the morning and keeping everyone strict. You know, I mean, everyone was sincere, but the first thing that goes is that, you know, getting up early in the morning. And so she was helping everyone to stay strict and like that. And of course, you know, Shyamasundar, it was his idea, or he was a factor of meeting George Harrison. You know, everything took off. So that was a you know, great example of couples getting together and helping each other be Krishna conscious and preach Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada was so ecstatic. And he often pointed out, at least I know several times pointed out, how, just see, you know, my spiritual master, he sent several sannyasis to England back in the 40s, 30s, 20s maybe. And they couldn't do anything. But my household of devotees, they started a revolution, and they got the birthplace temple, and of course the manor, and it was very important for the whole growth of the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world, because the Beatles were extremely famous at that time. Everybody was listening to the music, you know. And so when George produced that record, I think a single with Hare Krishna mantra on it, it became world famous. It was the top of the pops, you know. And everyone was hearing Hare Krishna, you know, not by some commercial artist, but by devotees singing, you know. Anyway, so that's a perfect example of using everything in Krishna's service and remaining detached from it for oneself. And what happens there is that the objects, you become attached to them not for your own sense gratification, but as paraphernalia to serve Krishna. Just like we have this temple. You know, it's such a wonderful gift. I sometimes think, you know, of how we're benefiting from all that hard work that went into Gunagraya Maharaj's conception, getting the building, his wife, who was a great designer. She went to India and studied, you know, it just doesn't happen, all of these elements. They were planned out, and the whole thing. And it's unique in ISKCON, really, all the details that went into this. And so we come here, you know, and we enjoy the building in the sense that it's a facility for worshiping Radha Giridhari. It's a nice, you know, and our function is, let's maintain it very nice. Let's keep it clean, you know, and keep it a very nice facility for service. Then that's actual use of the objects of the senses properly. And it has to be maintained throughout each stage of our devotional life, where yes, you're given your maintenance and things that you need, but anything beyond that has to be engaged in Krishna service. And so then one can maintain one's detachment, even in family life. So, yeah. Now this. I got to tell this story. So, Prabhupada was, I think, trained as a child in Chanakya Shloka, if I'm not mistaken. You know, because he's always quoting them. He was, you recognize that. So here he quotes one part of one: "Bhaya Rupavati Shatru." A beautiful wife is an enemy. Now, don't take this wrong. We're going to explain it. Okay. So he says, what he's meaning there is that. It's very, very easy to become attracted on a material level, and it can damage your Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada had a pastime when he was married. At a young age, you know, he was a young man. She was younger lady, and then he. So after some time. He was planning on getting a second wife. This was common in India at that time. Now I don't think you can do that. But his father discouraged him. You know, he said, "Look, it's fortunate for you that you're not so attracted to your wife that way. You know, it's a good fortune for your devotional life. So please don't do it." And Prabhupada. He obeyed him, his father. He didn't get married, and later on he told how it helped him in being able to take sannyas, because it's very possible to become too much enmeshed and too much entangled in family life. And it requires a lot of discipline and austerity and understanding to really make it work, in a devotional family life. And especially you have in this age, especially in the West, and now India is not much different now in many, many ways, where you're bombarded in every level from all different directions with the impulse or the impetus to enjoy sex, to enjoy this, to lead a materialistic life. So it takes a great deal of determination and understanding and surrender to be determined to maintain a purity inside and outside of a family life. I mean, it's difficult in this day and age to practice Krishna consciousness. And how can we do it? How is it possible? Because of the great strength of the power of the process and the mantra and the instructions we've been given and the association, it's possible to do it. But it's not a given. Every day we have to, this word of vrata, renew our vows, so to speak. Because Maya is constantly pressuring through allurements, and internally with the modes. Well, I'm really not feeling that well today, so I'll come late. Or I'll skip the morning, the Mangal Arti and come later, And as soon as you do that, you invite the modes in. And you tend to maybe get into a habit of doing that, So it's very important to take these vratas, vows, seriously, very seriously. And that's why the personal connection is so important. You don't just take a vow impersonally. You take a vow to someone, so someone is a witness to the vow. Krishna, the spiritual master. When you get initiated, all the other devotees are there, the deities are watching. Prabhupada makes this point. To try to, when the temptation comes or the weakness comes, no, I took a vow, there's no question of, doing the right thing or not doing something. So that enables one to get, and at a certain point, you get more steady. This is one of the blessings of getting older. Somehow that it's not a given. You can fall down at any age. You can deviate at any age, but the passions of youth are quieted a little bit, and you can, if you're determined, it becomes feasible to really remain detached, from the grosser aspects. There's always something trying to divert your attention, but Krishna is so attractive, and this is we heard those wonderful pastimes yesterday, that if we turn our attention to Krishna, and so much of that when we're chanting, this is such an important part of the sadhana, it's the most essential part. The more that you can become absorbed in the sound of Krishna's name, and the meaning, and everything, but the sound, to concentrate, the more you'll be attracted. That's what Krishna's means. It means all attractive. And you'll get a taste, just like in kirtan, when there's a real ecstatic kirtan and the drum is playing just nicely and everything is going nice, and there's a lot of devotees. You really have to fight not to get drawn into it, You have to be in really deep maya, Like people come to, we have the Sunday feast, people, it's packed in, and there's always a bunch of people in the back, they're observing, they're just observing. I'm not going to get brainwashed like you guys. I'm just checking you out. But they're preventing themselves from really, they put a wall up. So we want to let that wall down, and let Krishna in, and through nice chanting. And how does that happen? What you do when you're not chanting affects what happens when you do chant. If you're engaging in all kinds of nonsense, when it comes to chant, it's going to be hard to control the mind. But if you're nicely serving, you're hearing, you're reading, you're discussing Krishna, you're not chanting Bhajalpa, then when you chant, Krishna will give you the ability to focus on his name. It'll become just the sweetest thing. As is said in so many places. Morodam Morodametan, Mangalam Mangalana, Sakalanangamavalli, Satpalam Chitswarupam, Sakuradapi Padigitam, Shaddaya Heliava, Bhagavanana Matram, Tadiyat Krishna Nama. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, the perfect paradigm. Of all the Vedic writings, it's the transcendental fruit, the very form of spirit, unalloyed and absolute. One uttered even once with faith, or uttered once with none, from birth and death it truly will deliver anyone. And in the end it brings pure love for Krishna, life's true aim. So cast away all doubts and chant Shri Krishna's holy name. So that sweetness, sometimes it's, I'm chanting, but I'm not tasting it as the sweetest of the sweet, sweet, sweet. I'm chanting Hare Krishna. That's because our tongue is covered by the bile of ignorance. Rupa Goswami has explained this. This Upadeshamrita is such an essential book. I remember in New York when it came out, I think it was printed in 1976, so I was in LA. But then eventually I moved to New York, and I was there for the last couple of years of the big temple in Manhattan. We had a temple in 55th Street. So they had the practice there of chanting the first 8 verses of this Upadeshamrita after every class, after every Bhagavatam class. So everyone learned them, so they're kind of, engraved in my brain now. So one of them says, now if I remember, Syat Krishna Nama Charitari Satapya Vidya Pitto Patapta Rasarasya Narochikano Kintvadaradhanuninam Kalosaiva Justa Swadvi Kriman Bhavati Tadghanamula Hantri. I really should put this into poetry too. But what he's saying there is that the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna are very sweet, very palatable. But because our tongue is covered by the bile of ignorance, meaning that we're in the modes of nature, then it's just like having jaundice or hepatitis. I once had a serious case of hepatitis. I was in the hospital for weeks. You too? Yeah, you told it. Yeah. This wasn't in India. It was in... Anyway, I don't think I need to tell you how I got the hepatitis. It was from eating raw oysters on the streets of New York. Hare Krishna. They had little stands, and they were selling them with the sauce, and I didn't know anything about anything. Actually, that was important because when I came out, I was like this. I was living 2 blocks from Tompkins Square Park. Anyone who knows Prabhupada's Leela, he says that was an essential part. But I was a few years afterwards, 1968. But the devotees, they were chanting up and down the main streets there. I would see them. But my brain was 1,000,000 miles away. It was in, huh? I didn't only not only hear them go by. I was a busker. I would play the flute on the street, and I was always looking for the rhythm. Sometimes the guys playing in the park, the Puerto Ricans and the blacks, they would so I just jam with them, So I would sometimes hear the devotees. Oh, that's a nice beat. Let me check it out. Are you kidding? That's just the Hare Krishna. Get away from me. That's where I was completely, atheistic. I was raised as a communist, Orthodox. Anyway, I'll get into that. It's true. So anyway, so I'm in the hospital, for weeks and weeks, I think almost a month. It was 1969, July and June. Anyone who knows the history, that was the time when the first moonshot supposedly happened, and they actually walked on, they had televised, big step for mankind, whatever. I watched that on TV in my hospital bed. But I experienced this where nothing tasted sweet. I would taste some cookie or something. It doesn't. It's because of the bile in the blood. It's a whole thing, So Rupa Goswami uses this famous analogy. But it's a wonderful thing that kint adanat anudinang, day by day, if you chant the names and forms, qualities, pastimes of Krishna, that the disease of ignorance is destroyed at its fruit, and the natural sweetness comes back. And so once you get a little taste, if you pursue it, then that's your salvation. Because the whole problem is we have this great taste for material sense pleasure, which is really condemning us to birth and death and suffering. But to transfer that taste, I think to sublimate that sense gratification desire to serve Krishna, and to serve Krishna, especially hearing and chanting and so, then you're liberated, and you're on your way back to Godhead. And stirring that pot, of taste, that sweetness gets thicker and thicker. It's described like that in the CC. That ultimately comes out to prema, attraction, and bhava, ecstasy, and then prema, which is what the goal is. So that process, by being regulated, as he's saying here, every day practicing, then the taste comes, and then the next verse he decides, and this is the essence of all advice. Tan nama rupa charitari sukirna. Just spend your whole day. He's in Vrindavan. He said, chanting, hearing, serving the holy name, form, qualities, pastimes of Krishna, and in this way, perfect your life. So it's possible in any ashram, but it has to be an ashram. You have to see any situation you're in as how to make it an ashram, brahmacharya ashram. Ashram means a shelter where spiritual life is practiced and you can advance under the guidance of the pure devotee, spiritual master, and the Shastra. And so that's what I gleaned from this particular verse and purport. We got late. Any questions, comments on these? Oh, we also have our online group. Haribol. Haribol to you too. Hare Krishna. Oh, Balaram had some.
So recently, my spiritual master and Jumna Swami, they were speaking to each other about this idea of kind of like a fear or worry of the younger generation of devotees not really making the mark in terms of practicing austerity.
Uh-huh.
And he didn't really get into the details of what exactly they're referring to. But, I don't know, like you mentioned, getting up early in the morning.
Yep.
Was maybe something that I just think about, anyway, some of your experiences going around certain temples, and there's like, where's all the youth, A lot of them are...
I mentioned that about one temple, yeah.
So, things like that, and I don't know, like, these big festivals that we put on around America, of course some of the youth are doing that,
Yeah.
putting those things on, but largely, big communities like Vijay Prabhu mentioned, Ratna Bhushan, devotees like that, what would they do without devotees like that?
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, or at least sometimes, you're saying, oh, where's the youth? Where are they coming up? Are they coming up to the mark of, austerity and hard work and all that? So, anyways, maybe you could comment on that idea.
Well, first thing, I think it's different in different parts of the world. That's for sure. But it's a struggle to pass on what made the movement grow and what made it successful, and that was Prabhupada's example, his purity, his care, and his incredible Krishna consciousness, what he was able to give and inspire, and right in the middle of the hippie age, a certain cohort of them. Now, of course, we shouldn't be sentimental. It was still a small group compared to the thousands and thousands and millions of youth who knew about Krishna consciousness but really didn't take it seriously. And many of those youth, even during Prabhupada's time, they came in, and he made almost 5,000 disciples. But it'd be interesting to see how many of them were. Of course, we went through some real upheavals in the movement afterward. That's another thing. But the point is that it always takes leadership. When you have strong leadership, senior leadership who are truly Krishna conscious and really care for the wards, and that comes out. It's not just the play acting. There's a genuine care. And then that's a very attractive thing and can inspire people of any age to become serious in the matter of austerities. And then there's the maintenance aspect. That's always the most difficult. To start something is glorious, but to maintain it, that's why Vishnu, he has that assignment, in the universe. Destroying it is the easiest thing. So it requires steadiness and a and I think this is the hard part, because there was a core of leadership, Prabhupada created, no question about it. But then there's the next generation of leaders that needs to be created from the first generation. And I think that's where we've lacked, is to pass on that commitment to take on the burden of leading a temple, the temple president, what to speak of the GBC and in all levels. So it's something that is just, I think it's great that they're so attracted to like these kirtan melas. There's a real taste for kirtan, I think, if there's anything, is that. But as you pointed out, the idea of living in an ashram and subordinating oneself and actually taking, getting over the hump, and so you practice the austerities of getting up early. I mean, for Prabhupada, as far as from what I understood and when I joined, that was like essential to be able to live in the temple, is to get up early and be able to follow the programs. When I joined, there were so many people who wanted to join that there's a halfway house. You didn't just move into the temple. You moved into that halfway house, and then if you could actually come regularly, take the showers at the right time, and then you were able to move in. And you couldn't wear a dhoti, before you were moving the temple. And you say, I see he's here in Mangalarti in his karmi clothes, outside clothes. That means he's living in that halfway house. Yeah, Dravida Swami was there, and there was some others.
They have that in New Zealand, Bill.
New Zealand. You see. Yeah, that means it's healthy, because you have so many people who wouldn't, So it takes a combination of those who are dedicated to, not only leading, but training up other leaders who can then bring others forward, generational, And it's true of any organization. There always have to be people coming in. Now, for material things, you generally have people clamoring in who want to, some corporation or something, they want to get trained up. But our spiritual organization, it's not so obvious. People don't have the taste immediately. So that outreach, maintenance of purity within the organization, so that people become attracted, and book distribution, outreach in all different kirtans. That's important to always be renewing your personnel.
It's tough because it's voluntary. There's no pay.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's. Oh, Damodar Kumar. I hope we don't have to run and up the volume.
Hare Krishna.
There you go.
Okay.
Just yell.
This is just an extension to Balaram's question, but I think I've heard that even amongst modern day companies, big corporations, that where it's just really, I think, what's connected to this idea is just the people of this generation, like the new youth, the millennials, how there's a lack of like commitment amongst like the younger youth, and there's so many disadvantages, lack of work ethic and so many different things. And so I want to ask you, you perhaps may have more insight than we do.
I'm sorry?
You perhaps may have some insight more than we do, but like, what are those disadvantages of millennials, and how do we overcome them?
Well, it comes down to one word: phones. When I joined,
Turn them off.
there was no phones, in the meaning that there were so many other influences. I mean, there's a I can't speak to like outside the movement so much, but just in general, there's more. Your attention is scattered, and there's so many ways of the computers, yeah, but the phone in your pocket, Yes. Because these big tech companies, their whole how do they make money? By getting your attention and selling your attention to people who want to sell you something. So that's completely materialistic, demonic, really. And in order to do that, the like button, that little like button, someone who invented that, I think he regrets it now. You know, that's the, you know, I mean, I never saw the advantage or the attraction of Facebook. I mean, I can understand how it can be a preaching platform, but just to have that much more coming in at you, you know, I got to check out, what are they thinking about me, you know? Not for me, you know. And that's one of the ways I stay sane. I mean, I use a computer, but just the email, people expect to be answered. I wrote you an email this morning. Why don't you answer me, you know? In the old days, they'd send letters. You know it's not going to arrive before 2 or 3 days, and the person's going to, you know, you don't expect anything back. So there's more peace. I got so much more done when I was sitting at that desk in Miami, you know. So this is one of the problems. I think there's a difference in mentality because of all of the electronic stuff going on. And so, you know, how that's playing out on the different generations, you can see it. So how to, you know, on the other hand, of course, it can be a great tool for preaching. You know, this internet now is like a savior for many devotees stuck at home, can't go to the temple, you know, where to have more association. But it's a challenge, and I think, you know, we're seeing that challenge in North America now. You know, where Maharaj is now, they've expanded his zone because some of the GBC are not doing their GBC thing. And for Maharaj to be a GBC for Hawaii and also Tucson and also Washington State, yeah. Well, Boise was for years, you know. But still, it's, I don't know how it's going to work out. So, I think we better adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
One professor at SDSU.
Uh-huh.
She's doing all these studies on millennial generation. She actually has some quite good stuff.